Hello everybody and welcome back to another Marvel Crisis Protocol character spotlight. And today we are taking a look at a character that I have been running a lot of lately and is probably my favorite kind of sleeper hit from the Asgard pack. And that is of course Lady Sif. I have been really enjoying running this model lately. All the other models that come in the Asgard, the newer Asgard box, they're a lot flashier and they do these really cool and big impressive things. Sif, I think, is a little bit more subtle than that, but still an incredibly good model that I think gets overlooked a lot in that box. And yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into things here. So Sif is coming in as a 4 threat with a 4-3-3 defensive line and 6 stamina, so nothing too special there. She's a size 2 and a medium mover on a small base. So yeah, this is like probably one of the most basic stat lines you could see. A little on the squishy side for a 4 threat before we get into actual abilities and things like that, but she definitely makes up for that with her abilities. And yeah, we'll go ahead and jump into the attacks here. So the first one is Warrior Born. This is a range 2 5 dice builder attack. It's going to be physical, and it's going to cost you 0 power. You're going to build power based on the damage that you deal, and it's got 2 triggers on it. The first is a Wild Push. After the attack is resolved, if the target is size 3 or less, you may push the target character small. Really importantly, this is in any direction, and that's going to be a big deal with the second trigger, which is a Crit Wild Follow-Up trigger. After this attack is resolved, this character may advance small towards the target character. Now, this is a really nice combo of triggers here if you can get them both, because they're both after the attack is resolved, so you get to decide the order of this. So for example, if you wanted, you could, let's say they're on an objective, you could use the follow-up first to get yourself on the objective, and then you could push them back the other way, or something like that, or you could push them, forward off the objective, but if they backstop themselves or something, you can take advantage of the fact that you can use the follow-up first to advance in a direction different from the one you're pushing them in, something I've taken advantage of a lot with her. I've also had some kind of cool plays on like side, like D maps and stuff like that, where like my opponent's model will grab a hammer, she'll charge up to them, she pushes them to the side over towards the rest of my team, and then she gets to follow up towards the rest of my team as well and kind of get, back into the action and things like that. So you really get to take advantage of choosing the timing on that. You can push first or you can follow up first, bit depending on the direction you want to go with the follow up. And of course, just omnidirectional pushes are pretty good. So yeah, really solid triggers there. Not the most consistent things in the world on only 5 dice, but we'll talk about some ways that you can kind of get around that. Next, you have the Warrior Forged attack here. This is a 3-cost spender. It's going to be throwing 7 dice, also on the physical side, so she is very one-note when it comes to attack types. And this is going to be a range 3 attack, so you can do it from a little bit further away. This also has a trigger. It is the Crit Hit Mighty Bash, and this is a very strong trigger here. After this attack is resolved, if the target character is size 3 or less, so notably she ain't doing much against size 4 characters, this character throws the target character medium any direction once again, then this character advances small, and unlike your follow-up, this can also be in any direction. Really strong superpower here. Throw someone off a point, throw them into another model, whatever you want to do for extra damage. And then you're also just throwing out a 7 dicer and you're getting an advance out of it. You do have to hit that trigger, so again, we're going to be talking about some ways you can kind of make that more consistent, but yeah, super good effect, and on 7 dice that trigger is actually pretty good. So yeah, no notes, this is a great attack. Next, you have the Charge as her first superpower on the card here. This is just your standard charge. It's going to cost you 2 power. You're going to use up an action to make a move action followed by an attack action, and you can only do it once per turn. This is one of those charges where you can choose whatever you want, whether it's your regular builder attack here or the Warrior Forged attack. And yeah, I mean, that's really nice. For 5 power, you can charge yourself up the board, hit someone with the Warrior Forged, throw them away, advance small onto their point. You've gotten a bunch of mobility, you've gotten a throw, you've gotten good damage, and you still got an action left. Really good. So yeah, no notes. Charges are good, turns out. Next, she has Master Swordswoman. This is the exact same as Baron Zemo's Master Swordsman. It's going to cost you 2 power when you are targeted by a physical attack or you target a character with a physical attack. Turns out that is all of your attacks. If the enemy character is within range 2, so no point using it on the spender if you're using it for that range 3, but if you can get within the range 2, then you have full rerolls on your attack or defense dice, whichever one you are doing. This is really, really nice. This is going to help your triggers in a big way, getting full rerolls. It's going to help your consistency on getting some damage on that 5-dicer, so you get a little bit more power, get to do this more often. Really, really nice for that. Unlike Zemo, where he's only got 3 dice for defense, this is 4 dice, so those rerolls are a little bit more meaningful there as well, which is definitely a nice thing to have. So yeah, this is really, really solid. Obviously, it does kind of give her a very, very clear kind of weak side in energy and mystic, versus physical, where she's got, not only more dice, but she's also got access to that full rerolls. So definitely something to keep in mind when you're deploying her. Maybe try to keep her away from their mystic and energy attackers a little bit, because they, none of her defensive tech is all that great there. But still, really, really solid ability. Obviously, it's an amazing thing on Zemo's card, so it makes sense it's good with her as well. She is, of course, an Asgardian, so like all of the other Asgardians, during the power phase, she's going to gain 1 additional power, which is big for her because that doesn't mean her charge is online right from the start of the game there. So being only a medium mover, she's not as likely to be able to hit the middle point in a single move, but with 2 moves, easily, pretty much every time, as long as you're not like way out of position on deployment. So really, really nice for that. Or just, if you're paying like playing pay to flip scenario or something like that, and you want to also pick out an objective, also useful for that sort of thing. So a couple things you can kind of do with that. But yeah, generically good. And unlike a lot of the other Asgardians, I feel like her superpowers are not really costed with that in mind. So she really gets to take advantage of it in a way that not a lot of the other Asgardians can. So that's always really, really nice to see. And the last thing on our card here is Battle Tested. When this character would suffer damage from an enemy effect, reduce the amount of damage suffered by 1 to a minimum of 1. So yeah, she's got a damage reduction, and those are, turns out, really, really good. Means even against those energy or mystic attacks, she has a pretty good odds of staying standing. And yeah, that's always nice. I mean, I'm a sucker for damage reductions. Anyone who's been watching for a while knows that. I'm also a sucker for full offensive rerolls and just kind of Zemo in general and charges. This model is right up my alley, and there is a reason why I love her so much. But yeah, I think overall we're looking at a really, really solid, well-rounded kit. She has a pretty decent amount of control as long as your opponent's not throwing too many size 4s or 5s. The size 3 push and throw on her builder and spender, both really, really good. With the full rerolls, your consistency on the triggers is a lot better than it looks like on paper, and we'll talk about that more when we talk about affiliations, because I don't actually run her much in Asgard, largely just because I don't play much Asgard, but I do splash her a little bit. And yeah, she's got some solid defensive tech there. Obviously, the damage reduction is huge, but then Master Swordswoman, meaning her physical defense is really, really obnoxious to get through. But she's still not no pushover on energy or mystic because of that damage reduction. Just in general, really, really solid piece. Looking at the flip side here, nothing as far as I'm aware changes. Everything looks to be the same. I'm not missing anything. If I am, please do let me know down below. But I think in this case, I'm pretty confident in saying that she is the same. So yeah, from there, I think we're going to go ahead and start taking a look at any tactics cards or affiliations. And in this case, it's an easy one. She has no tactics cards and is only a member of 1 affiliation, that being Asgard. And I do think she is a solid inclusion in Asgard. The healing and condition removal on a model with damage reduction under original Thor is actually really, really good, so I do like her there. The rerolls from either Loki or Mighty Thor are both really, really nice for her as well. Loki's obviously is a little bit more generic. She can kind of use it whenever. It is good for her to be able to help get those triggers once in a while. Downside is she can kind of, I don't want to say power hungry, but she can kind of be in a situation where she's always using all of her power. So paying into this can be a little rough, especially, in the offense. If you don't get it, that'll definitely be something that you kind of have to keep in mind. But stacking rerolls on defense is really good for her, so definitely something you can take advantage of there. For the last leadership in affiliation, that is Mighty Thor, and yeah, the rerolls are quite useful. When your offensive rerolls within range 2, she wants to be in that range all the time anyways. It basically means she hits almost identically to Zemo with her builder, but with some extra triggers on top. So yeah, really, really solid there. And then on the defensive side, it is definitely nice because she doesn't get to use her Master Swordswoman there, so it gives her a little bit of extra defensive tech against more ranged attacks and something that works against those energy and mystic attacks. So she definitely appreciates this as well. Yeah, she kind of likes all three of the Asgardian leaderships, and I mean, she's just a solid kind of bruiser for threat for their affiliation. Obviously, if you're kind of going for pure bulk, you just want someone who's going to survive. Beta Ray is probably the better pick, but in terms of trying to get someone who can take a hit but can also dish one out, I think Sif is a very, very solid option. So yeah, I mean, if she's not competing with Bill for that fourth threat slot, she definitely has a lot of value. And I think if your opponent's not bringing kind of like a kaiju style model, like your Hulks and things like that, where Beta Ray Bill is exceptionally good, I think there's a really strong argument to bring Sif in a lot of games over Bill in that case, especially ones where you're kind of trying to do the punching, which is kind of how that goes with Asgard these days, and things like Thor too. So yeah, definitely a really solid inclusion on an Asgard list. As far as other affiliations go, I think the one thing that she really appreciates is things that are going to help her to get those triggers online and get a little bit of extra consistency here and there, especially while she's still trying to get rolling and get up to that point where she's able to use Master Swordswoman consistently. So, yeah, I think you're not too concerned with power leaderships. They're not bad for you by any means. You can definitely take a lot of advantage of them, but you already have access to your charge turn one. So, it's not as useful in the early game, but as the game goes on, it can definitely be nice, especially if you're not getting the damage you want to be able to use your superpowers more often. So power ones are definitely worth considering. Stuff like Steve or even She-Hulk, and actually she would have been a really cool member in A-Force. But yeah, they're definitely worth considering. But I think some of the more interesting ones are the ones that help with their consistency, help her get those triggers more often. Obviously one of the obvious answers for that is something like Steve 3. Where you can just pay a power if you got a hit and get another result. On your spender, that means if you rolled a hit, you've got the trigger. On your builder, you can at least use it to help get the push through, and if you've already got the push, you can use it to try and get the follow up or something like that. So yeah, definitely a really meaningful effect there. But personally, my favorite place to run her is actually in Cabal under Red Skull 3. Now, I think this is a great place for her, and the reason for that is the leadership allowing you to basically have the reality gem means one of those dice that you wouldn't even have been able to reroll before is now going to count as a critical, which notably on both of her attacks, a critical is a trigger. Both of them are a critical and another symbol, so still need to get the other symbol, but it helps a lot. You're going to be adding another die, which you can reroll, and then in addition to that, after she's got the benefits of the leadership there, you also have other models like Zemo in affiliation, and her and Zemo running up together feels so good. She gets to take advantage of Zemo's reroll aura. They can both charge the midline at turn one, and they are just a brutal pairing to deal with. They both hit super hard, well above their weight with those full rerolls, and when you're taking advantage of Zemo's aura and that leadership, it's really hard hitting. So I absolutely love her under Red Skull 3, and yeah, probably my favorite place to run her personally. Outside of Red Skull 3, I do think she's still fairly splashable. She's got some really solid control elements. She's relatively bulky and annoying to take down. So anywhere you're kind of looking for a bruisery model and you don't have one in affiliation, I do think she's a really solid option. Some kind of specific like honorable mentions for other things that might help her with that dice consistency a little bit would include stuff like Guardians. I think is really solid for her. That's definitely just being able to get those two rerolls. I think she's a model that can take a lot of advantage of those, and therefore is kind of worth considering over potentially some other models, even potentially some affiliated models. So I think there's that. She's of course competing with models like Gamora there, who are also really good. So definitely something to consider. But yeah, I think she can get a lot of mileage out of a winging it token. So something like that's really good. I think if you want to play her a little bit more defensively, she could be interesting with something like Webs or Shield, specifically Invader's Shield in that context. And then of course you have the rerolls from either Wakanda or Iron Man's, very similar to Loki's leadership, which she is solid under. It's probably my least favorite of the three Asgardian leaderships to run her under, but still definitely very solid for her. X-Force unlocking the skull. She's already kind of operating in that range too, giving her a reroll all really, really good things. I think, there you run her up with like Psylocke or something like that, and that could be a really, really interesting duo. So I think you've got some cool play there. And yeah, like I said earlier, like the power leaderships are probably solid for her. They're not necessarily what she needs, but they're not bad. So if you're looking for a bruiser there, it's not going to hurt. Defenders, she definitely is very good at getting into the thick of things. She's got that charge, she's got the movement on her spender. She can use the push to manipulate and set up things for other models as well. The omnidirectional push them back towards like Daredevil or something like that for when he goes for a spender or something like that. So yeah, she really appreciates the rerolls, of course, there too. You got access to Amazing Spider-Man, the witty banter, keep her alive, things like that. So yeah, I really, really like her in a lot of places. And I mean, this is just another one of those models where I think she's very kind of generically good. There's not too much to really say on her in terms of like specific things. If you can give her any form of extra consistency, because she already has a decent amount of it, um, and just kind of let her do her thing, she'll be very effective. I mean, I can't say how many games at this point I've been like, this game is over, and then Sif just turns around and does some crazy things because full rerolls on 7 dice will do absolute crazy amounts of work. So yeah, she's just a really, really solid, fairly dependable model, and I think it makes her a really good splash in a lot of different places. So yeah, this is definitely going to be one of the shorter episodes in this series here, but I think that's just because she's a relatively straightforward model that kind of speaks for herself on what she does. I personally absolutely love this model. Weirdly enough, even though she's definitely the least flashy, she might be my favorite model out of the new Asgard box. I don't necessarily think she's the best model out of that box. I think all four models in that box are incredibly good, but I absolutely love playing this model. She feels super consistent. She has amazing triggers. She's just in general a really, really solid piece. She's not necessarily going to be the piece that, stands out the most to you in every game. When she gets to do a couple of those full reroll spenders, it does feel really, really good, but you're not really expecting to get that most games. That's kind of going to be something that comes up every few games, and it'll feel really, really nice when it does. So a lot of the time, she's not going to be the kind of standout model, but she will consistently be relatively annoying to remove from your opponent, and she will hit reasonably effectively with some solid control on her attacks. And I think those are things that are really, really valuable, especially in the current meta where there's not as many things that can kind of, there's a lot less safe grabs and things like that just in the game in general. There are the few that are in the game are really, really good, but there's a little bit more opportunity to take advantage of things like that turn one charge. So yeah, really, really valuable model in the current meta, in my opinion, and just a really, really solid model all around. So that is my thoughts on Lady Sif here. Let me know what you guys think down below. Always curious to hear your guys' thoughts. But yeah, I absolutely love this model. If you guys couldn't tell, I definitely tend to do this with the ones that I'm really excited about. I probably repeat that sentence way too much. So hopefully you guys still got something more than that out of this though, because yeah, I think she's really, really cool, and there's a lot of things that she can do that are really, really fun and interesting. But yeah, just kind of generically good things, so not as much in terms of like specific synergies and things she's looking for. But yeah, that is my thoughts. So once again, as always, definitely leave yours down below. But if you guys enjoyed this video, please do drop a like on it. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We do character spotlights and other kind of conversation-focused videos every week, and we have battle reports on the weekends. So if you're a fan of any of that stuff, feel free to jump on in. I also really quickly want to mention that we have very, very recently opened memberships on the channel. So if you're interested in that, supporting the channel in a little bit of an extra way there, very, very much appreciated. Anything from that obviously will go back into improving equipment for the channel and trying to, make the content here as entertaining and valuable to you guys as possible. So definitely something worth considering, but even if not, I do appreciate all you guys watching. So yeah, that is going to do it for this one. So until next time, have a great day, everybody. Peace.